Good evening. I'm 14 First Alert meteorologist Arden Gregory here with your First Alert weather show at 9 p.m. I do want to start with a live look at the Twin Bridges. If you haven't already heard, they've been doing the inspection on the bridges recently. I'm very invested in this as somebody who works in Evansville and lives in Henderson. And while they were doing the inspection, unfortunately, they found something, a structural issue. And so initially, they were supposed to have the bridge down to just one lane until 3 p.m. when they finished their inspection work. But because they found a problem, they're going to keep this left lane closed until further notice while they work on how they're going to fix this issue that they found. So traffic has been moving very slowly all evening long. So if you're trying to get from Evansville to Henderson, not just today, but probably for the next few days, and leave yourself lots of extra time. At last check, things were improving compared to, like rush hour earlier tonight, but this was still moving slow all the way back to the interstate. So give yourself lots of extra time if you are going from Evansville to Henderson, as that southbound bridge is going to be down to one lane until further notice while they work on fixing this structural issue that they found. Here's a much prettier view. No traffic in this shot. Here's a live look at the Owensboro riverfront. Clear skies overhead right now. It is going to be mostly clear, mild and muggy through the overnight hours. Tomorrow, temperature-wise, will be fairly similar to today, but I think it's going to feel a little nicer because it's going to be less humid tomorrow. We are tracking the chance of some rain and maybe even a few thunderstorms then Wednesday into Thursday, but it looks pretty scattered, certainly not going to be a washout, and as of right now, our chances of severe weather seem low. We did have thunderstorms last night. Many of you may have been woken up by that. There was a lot of heavy rain, lots of thunder and lightning, some very strong winds that even caused some tree damage. We had some power outages and things like that, all fairly minor, but still just kind of nuisance weather there, as some storms did blow through last night into early this morning. After about 7 or 8 a.m. though, those pretty much moved out of here, and we've been dry all day long. We do have just a few very thin clouds overhead this evening, but it's mostly clear, and it's going to stay that way through the rest of the night tonight. And tomorrow also looks mostly sunny through the entire day. Now Tuesday evening may start out clear, but clouds will then roll in late Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning, and Wednesday will be partly to mostly cloudy then from that point forward. Certainly not a washout, but there is just this chance of a little scattered rain starting around midday on Wednesday and continuing into the afternoon. Not everyone is going to see that rain, but a few showers and even an isolated thunderstorm can't be ruled out from about lunchtime through Wednesday afternoon. Then we see another wave of rain pushing in overnight Wednesday night. Again, this is not going to be for everyone. This rain looks kind of scattered, and it really looks like the worst of it will stay to the southwest of the tri-state, but a few showers and storms are possible overnight Wednesday night, and we'll see those rain chances lingering into Thursday as well. We are outlooked for general run-of-the-mill thunderstorms Wednesday into Wednesday night, so it's possible we'll get few rumbles of thunder, pocket of heavy rain, maybe even an isolated damaging wind gust, enough to knock some branches out of the trees and things like that. Damaging winds would be the primary threat if we were to get any severe weather, but it really seems like the threat for severe storms is going to stay west, and especially west-southwest of the tri-state. The greatest risk of severe storms seems to be from about the boot heel of Missouri west, kind of along the Missouri-Arkansas border there. So again, expecting the severe weather to stay west-southwest of the tri-state Wednesday night. But we are keeping a close eye on it, because if that shifts even just a few miles, the tri-state could end up in that level 1 risk for severe weather. So right now our chances of severe weather seem low, but we are certainly keeping a very close eye on it. Our temperatures topped out in the mid to upper 80s earlier this afternoon. I think we made it to 88 at our highest point in Evansville, but I will say the weather station at the Evansville airport has been acting up. So we haven't been getting consistent readings from it. So I'm not totally sure, but I think 88 was the highest we got. We haven't had measurements every single hour though. That does line up pretty well though with most of the tri-state, hit somewhere in the mid to upper 80s earlier this afternoon. Now that the sun has set, we're cooling off a little bit. Most of us are sitting in the mid to upper 70s now, so we've dropped about 10 degrees since this afternoon. Dew points ranging from the mid 60s to low 70s, just depending on your location. So that does show you that it's still a little humid out there. You may have noticed that, especially this morning. I immediately noticed that when I stepped outside this morning after all that rain had gone through overnight. It was cooler, but it still had that, very damp, kind of thick feel to it out there. And so it's been kind of on the humid side all day today. Through the overnight hours, I want to point out where our dew points are now. Our temperatures are going to fall back to around that same point. When your temperature and your dew point are the same, that's when the air becomes saturated and you end up with fog. So as our temperatures fall back into the mid 60s overnight under mostly clear and fairly calm conditions, it's possible we'll see some patchy fog developing late tonight into early tomorrow morning. Then once the fog burns away, the rest of Tuesday looks mostly sunny and fairly pleasant, especially given the time of year. I mean, this is mid-August. We're still kind of in the dog days of summer here, but our temperatures will top out somewhere in the mid to maybe upper 80s again tomorrow. It will be less humid though. Today, while it was a huge break from the dangerous heat wave we had most of last week and into the weekend, we still had heat index values well into the 90s today because of that humidity. Tomorrow will be a little drier, and as a result, I don't think the heat index will be as much of a factor. Then we've got that chance for just a few scattered showers and maybe a thunderstorm Wednesday into Thursday. Again, neither day will be a washout. As we get into the weekend, I wouldn't rule out a stray shower popping up just kind of in the heat of the afternoon, Friday or Saturday, but the weekend does look mostly dry. And notice we don't have any huge changes in our temperatures. We just kind of hold on to the mid 80s through the next 7 days. I do want to check in on the comments here on Facebook, see what everybody has to say here. All right, get my phone out. Good evening, Cheyenne and Suzanne and Laura and Jeanette. Always appreciate you guys tuning in here. James is saying, they're saying next weekend we may see some fall weather. You talking about this weekend, James? Or the next one after that? Because I would not call this fall weather. That's, certainly better than this past weekend, but we're still looking at highs in the mid to maybe even upper 80s, especially on Saturday, overnight lows into the mid 60s. That's not uncommon for this time of year. So that's pretty on par with mid to late August there. Good evening, Jeff. And Misty slept through the storm early this morning. You must not have had nearly as much thunder as we did at my house, Misty. It woke the whole house up. And Laura is asking about the 8:30 weather update with Byron. For those of you who used to tune into that, they've shifted it and are doing it at 10 a.m. now. So it's Byron and Casey, Byron Douglas and Casey Mason. Casey does the news and Byron does the weather, and they're doing that at 10 a.m. now instead of 8:30, trying something different there. So you can still catch a streaming update, but they are doing it at 10 a.m. now, and that is not going to social media, so it's not out on Facebook or YouTube, but they are still doing a streaming update at 10 a.m. every day on our other streaming platforms. So if you watch on the app or on the website, Roku, Amazon Fire, things like that, they are still doing a morning update, but they've changed it a little bit. So it's at 10 a.m. and it's no longer visible on social media, Laura. You're welcome, Bill. No, John asked if the temp could ever fall below the dew point. No, because at that point you've reached saturation. So at that point they would, if they got lower, they would fall together. So the temperature would drag the dew point down with it. The dew point can never be the temperature can never be less than the dew point. Make sure I get my words straight there. So the temperature can come down and meet the dew point, but then after that, if they keep falling, they fall together. The temperature cannot fall below the dew point because you're saturated at that point. You can't get more saturated. That's not possible. And Simeon is asking about our precipitation for August. It is actually above and beyond normal now after last night's storms. I'll show you that in just a second, Simeon. I've got that queued up in my next scene here. And okay, so James is saying he thinks it's the weekend after. We'll look at the extended outlook for you in just a second, James. James also saying he slept through the storms last night and then woke up to a broken flagpole. So glad everybody's okay there. And yeah, Cheyenne said the storms woke up her dogs. Yeah, that's maybe you guys are just sounder sleepers than I am, but I got woke up by the thunder several times last night. All right, we had some folks asking about the rain totals from last night's storms, so let's get into it a little bit. For starters, that cold front that brought us those storms is what finally broke this heat wave. I mentioned we've been having some problems with the weather station out at the Evansville Regional Airport. You'll notice this blank tile there on the 5th. That's a day that the weather station went out, wasn't working. We didn't get temperature readings for that day. But from Friday the 7th all the way through this weekend, we have had highs in the 90s every day, and it's been humid too. So the heat index has been into the triple digits. You guys will remember we were under heat advisories and extreme heat warnings basically all of last week. Again, we didn't get a reading for the high temperature for yesterday or today because we're still having those problems with the weather site out there at the airport. As for rainfall, up until today, really the only significant rainfall we had was with those severe thunderstorms on Wednesday. You may remember Wednesday afternoon of this past week, we had some strong to severe storms, and that's actually what produced that tornado in Winslow up in Pike County. So we did have some heavy rain and thunderstorms then, and then we got more heavy rain and thunderstorms last night. It hasn't gone through the system yet, but I chatted with the National Weather Service, and they did just give us kind of a manual update here that the official rain total for Evansville from last night's storms will be 1.36 inches. So I factored that into our total so far for the month and for the year. That means that brings this month's total up to more than 3 inches of rain, which is pretty wet for August. August is oftentimes kind of a hot, dry month. So we are at over 1.5 inches surplus rain for this month so far, and we're only about halfway through. So this could end up being a pretty wet August if we get a little more rain in here. For the year, we now have more than 30 inches of rain. That's still a little less than 2 inches short of where we should be for this year. But we have come a long way. You have to remember, we had that horrible drought during the spring. We were at one point like 1.5 feet short on rainfall this year. So we have really come a long way since then and have almost completely caught up now after being so short at the beginning of the year with that dry spring. Our average temperature, no surprise, is running warmer than normal, even not factoring in that hot day we had on Sunday or the temperatures from today. We had, over a week straight of highs in the 90s, and our overnight lows were very warm too. That number I just showed you was specifically the total at the Evansville Regional Airport. These are some of the other reports that we have received from those storms overnight and into this morning. You'll notice the way those storms rolled through, they swept kind of from west to east, and they largely kind of cut off right here. So much of western Kentucky down around Webster, McLean, Ohio, Muhlenberg, Hopkins counties didn't get much rain at all. Some of them got 1/4 inch of rain or less. But for those of you where the storms moved through from about Henderson and Davis and Hancock counties north, most of us got over 1 inch of rain in those scenarios. Many folks got over 1.5 inches. So we did have soaking rainfall with those thunderstorms that moved through last night, and that's why we've seen this big increase in our rainfall totals for the month and for the year. Moving forward, our temperatures will be running near to maybe just slightly below average. Our normal highs this time of year would be about 88. Our normal low would be about 67, and we're running pretty close to that. We're off by just a couple degrees here or there, but most days we're off by a couple degrees below it. So we are running near to just slightly below average through the next 7 days. Really, the only shot at rainfall is those scattered showers and storms Wednesday into Thursday. So depending on how that shakes out, we may or may not add to that rainfall total. You know how it is with that scattered rain. It could rain in one part of the tri-state, but never actually fall over that rain gauge at the Evansville Regional Airport. So officially on the record books, it would be a dry day, even though other parts of the tri-state got rain. So that might be how these end up shaking out, or maybe we'll add to that rainfall total. We'll just have to wait and see. The extended outlook. So this is kind of the general trend, not a specific forecast for a specific day, but just the general trend from Tuesday, August 25th through the end of the month. So we're looking at the rest of next week on through the following weekend. Okay, so we're way out there. That's why we are not talking about a specific forecast, just a general trend, because that many days out, things could change dramatically. But as of right now, the precipitation outlook isn't really pointing real clearly either direction. So areas to our east look like they're setting up for kind of a wet weather pattern where they would have above average precipitation. Areas to our north are setting up for a drier weather pattern where they may go through a long stretch most of next week and maybe even beyond, seeing little to no rain. But here at home, we're not seeing a real clear signal either way. So that means there's probably some rain chances in the mix, but some dry days in there too. Not a real clear signal of a particularly wet or dry overall weather pattern. Now, when we look at our temperatures, the general trend does show near to maybe just slightly above average. So keep in mind this time of year, average would be upper, maybe mid to upper 80s. So this would probably mean some upper 80s, close to 90, but nothing like the heat wave that we saw this past week, right? This would be into the deep reds if that were the case. So warm, but not oppressively hot. It seems like any kind of hazardous heat, like what we were dealing with last week, all of that's going to stay to our southwest. They are looking at very hot, very dry conditions. You can see those dark reds there where they are outlooked at a pretty good chance of having some hazardous heat. And then those orange yellow shades you see there are areas outlooked as having rapid onset drought. So they're expecting it to get very hot and for the plants in the ground to dry up very quickly in that heat. And so they are looking at hazardous heat and rapid onset drought to our southwest. But here at home, we're going to dodge all of that. So it looks like we may have a fairly seasonable, just kind of typical mid to late August here over the next couple of weeks. It's not to say we won't have a weather event here or there, but the overall trend shows just kind of typical weather. So some scattered rain here or there, temperatures in the 80s, but nothing to get real worked up about in the extended outlook as of right now. For those of you who are curious, I did want to give a quick update on the tropics. We have been tracking Lala. This is the track it has taken up to this point. Notice it didn't actually make landfall, but I mean just barely. It was just to the southwest of Hawaii there, but they obviously got hit very hard just due to the size of that storm. Even though the center of the storm never made landfall, they were obviously getting hit with the wind and the rain and everything from it anyway. As it moved along, it has weakened back out some. It's currently a tropical storm with winds of 65 miles an hour, moving west at about 10 miles an hour, but that is expected to change as we go through the next couple of days. By this time tomorrow, it's expected to be a Category 1 hurricane again, and it's expected to turn then and head back to the north, remaining a Category 1 hurricane. The good news is there's not a whole lot out that way in that part of the ocean, so it shouldn't impact any kind of large population centers or anything like that. The fact that it dodged Hawaii means that there's not a whole lot left out there for it to hit. So kind of dodged a bullet there, but Hawaii certainly still recovering from getting hit by the wind and the rain from that storm. And again, it is expected to re-intensify into a Category 1 hurricane, but it's moving to the north and as of right now, not expected to hit anything major as it does so. There's one more look at the 7-day forecast. Let me take one more check in on the comments here. All right, Becky is asking about the temperature for Saturday. So the temperature on Saturday, you're asking about Mount Carmel, Illinois. That's outside of our coverage area, I'm sorry, no, it's not. I'm thinking about Vernon, Illinois, losing my mind. Mount Carmel, Illinois. So yeah, right here, close to home. So your temperature would be pretty similar. Technically, our forecast is for Evansville, so when you're looking at Saturday, typically if you're in western Kentucky, you can maybe add a degree or two to that. Then as you head farther north, maybe shave a degree or two off. So in Mount Carmel, I would say probably mid 80s for you on Saturday, probably closer to 85 or 86, but no dramatic change there. So in general, looking at warm, but not aggressively hot like what we had this past weekend. Maybe a stray shower popping up in the heat of the afternoon, but we'll probably stay dry. And in general, Saturday looks mostly sunny, Becky. So weather doesn't look too bad for whatever your weekend plans are. Not seeing any other questions, so I am going to go ahead and wrap this up. I'll have another look at your forecast on 14 News tonight at 10, and Robinson Miles is in there working hard on all of the latest news headlines, so I hope you'll join us both then. Thanks for watching the 14 First Alert Weather Show here at 9 p.m.